Okay. Now I've got a few questions for all of you. The first one is that interactivity has a lot to do now more than ever with journalism, with readers or listeners having the ability to comment or use social media to interact with journalists. Can you tell us how your outlets use social media, and what would you say are the pros and cons of each?
You want me to start? I'll start. For National Football Authority, since we're only 3 months old, we haven't done a press release or anything. It's all been about social media, Facebooking, Twittering, and over time, you get more followers, more fans, and it's a great way to interact with people, especially our readers. As far as the site itself, it's a way to create a buzz, which I think we've done successfully since we are starting to get partnerships and a bigger following. I don't see any real cons about using social media for the website, just as long as no one really types anything up that could be a little risque. But we are solely powered by social media.
Our website, WTAM.com, we have actually a new feature on there now where if you're on there and you're checking out the latest news stories, be it sports or non-sports related news, whatever it is, you can comment under the stories through Facebook. And you can see when you go to the site, you can see your profile picture from Facebook, and you're able to comment on stories like that. And that's really driven our website a lot. That's a really new feature. What we're doing a lot on WTAM is we have our own Facebook. You can like WTAM, and that gives you an opportunity to get the breaking news and everything else. And that almost becomes a forum for people on there where they can discuss their thoughts when they comment under different stories. They comment on breaking news, different features, whatever it is on the website. So people can like it, where you click it and get the thumbs up there. You can also comment on them. And we're seeing that the more people are going to our Facebook page and seeing the stories and commenting and interacting with us, the on-air personalities, it's driving our website more. So that's really been successful. The pros, I would say, to Twitter, and I'm on Twitter, the pros is you get the information right away. And that's what people want nowadays, is they want the information, and that's all. They don't care what it is, how you're getting it, they just want the info. So we're feeding them the info. And I guess the pros to Facebook is you're getting an idea of people interacting with you. I would say the negatives, and I can't really speak for the newspapers, but I know on Twitter, it sometimes takes away from people visiting our website. And they really want to drive the website, but you're running into an issue because when people are looking at Twitter, they're not really going to your content that's on the webpage. So I feel that's taking away from it. And like I said, I can't speak for newspapers, but I feel like it's similar where people are going to the Twitter, and in that case, they're not really turning on the radio, or they're not picking up the paper. So I think that's definitely a con, and I think because it's such a new situation, and Twitter's still only, 2, 3, 4 years old, us in radio and people in newspapers and across different media outlets are trying to figure out that happy medium where you're going to be able to figure out where people will still go to the website and still follow you on Twitter. So there's pros and cons. It's changing every day, and I guess we just got to get used to it.
Okay, for our television, lots of stuff that you just said as pertains to us as well. For us, we weren't the first television station to go online with our website. It was interesting. But now, so much, we placed a lot of emphasis on that. We just celebrated yesterday at about 11:45, 200,000 people on our website, which makes us the #1 television station in the United States that has the highest number of people registered on their website. Prior to that, we were #1 with 100,000, and we got to 200,000 in less than a year. So as you can guess, that has influenced a lot of our advertising dollars. is diversify the advertising dollars. And as we know, money helps the product and brings in money, et cetera. For us, the interaction for people has really been interesting. It has given us an instant pulse of what people are thinking and how they're thinking. For television, if you can get a feel or a pulse of where people are thinking or how they're thinking, that might dictate maybe we need to do more stories on education because a lot of people are concerned about it. Maybe we need to do more stories on transportation because a lot of people are concerned about that. So it's really been helpful in getting an instantaneous idea of the pulse of what's happening. It also gives us an idea of the demographics of who we're reaching, who's talking to us. Maybe we're only getting 25 to 50, or maybe we're only getting 18 to 45. So that kind of gives us an idea of if we need to really increase the diversity of our audience, we need to start doing things to target the 45 to 60 demo because they are not talking back to us. They are not writing in. So it's been pretty insightful that way. We also, I like it so much, we have a segment on our morning show and different variations on the other shows called Plugged In, where we just ask people, what are you guys thinking about this subject? What are you thinking about that? So we went from the station not being the first station in the city to have a website to one of the stations who's almost using every outlet to use social media to get insight on how people are thinking. So it has had a dramatic impact on what we do and how we do it. And now the scuttlebutt, if you will, okay, how can we use it more? How can we use Twitter? And like you're saying, it's a big little conundrum. Well, I should say conflict you have there, and how to use Twitter and Facebook to work together as a happy medium. And you're right now people haven't figured that out, but that's a situation that's not being ignored at all. You're right. So it's been tremendously influential at our station, and I would probably say for most of television media as well.
I'll let Deborah address this from the newspaper's point of view. But one thing, when you talk about social media, I think one thing where it helps us as much as find out what trends are going on and what people are talking about. It's kind of a way to drop in on conversations that you might hear over here at a coffee shop. But I think one of our big challenges I felt when we went to the web is we had to shift from a newspaper news cycle, which is once every 24 hours, to an on deadline all the time, And I think one thing that we use Twitter for is it helps us compete with our electronic journalist competitors in immediacy. And so oftentimes we'll send someone to an event, a reporter, and instead of having to wait till the next day to read their story or a couple hours after the event when they file their story and it's posted online, they might Twitter during the event. So we use it not only to get information, but to push our information out and do it in a really timely way. Because the one thing about the web I think that always strikes me is it has a voracious appetite and it's never full. So it's really quite a challenge.
So historically, newspapers have had a one-way conversation with readers. The information was going out, but you were never hearing anything back. And so the beauty of Cleveland.com, which is our sister website, is that it does enable our readers and our audience to talk back to us, and it brings about the interactivity that you've talked about, which we believe is critical. And so the comments that we have on the stories on Cleveland.com, the papers, Facebook page, Cleveland.com's own Facebook page, as well as the Facebook pages and Twitter accounts of nearly all of our reporters, really has just created so many additional entry points for people to interact with us. And we think that's a great thing, both to gather information. We've gotten lots of great information that has developed into stories as a result of the interactivity that we have now that we didn't have once upon a time. The trade-off, particularly on the online comment side, is that it's someone's full-time job to monitor the comments, and even that isn't enough. Sometimes there's information that's inaccurate. Almost daily there's information that's offensive, that's racist, that's just wrong. And sort of assessing that information is somewhat subjective. And when commenting emerged, newspapers took the position that it wasn't our content that was produced by us, and so we weren't going to jump in because we didn't want to be liable for anything that was said on a comment that appeared on the web. But over the past few years, newspapers really have jumped in and said, you know, we will have standards for what's acceptable to post in an online comment. And so we have people who are now out of the daily mix of news gathering because they're having to babysit that process because the comments really, in many ways, have gotten out of control. And this isn't a problem just in Cleveland and just in newspapers, but the newspaper industry as a whole is really trying to figure out the answer to wrestle the comments to a place where we can at least have some meaningful civil discourse about the direction that the community should take without having to deal with all of the sort of negatives that come with it. So I think the positives really have been overwhelming because it creates that two-way conversation and sometimes bigger than two-way conversation. But the cons are something that we also are forced to have to manage.